Welcome back, everybody. This is Charley Hogwood, ReadyGoPrep.com and Survival Dispatch Insider. Today, we are going to talk a little bit about the issue in December that just came out called Germ Warfare for the Insider magazine. What we started out to do was create an issue on sanitation, because sanitation is so important to long-term survival, short-term survival, daily life. And we started digging into it a little bit more and started fleshing out what are the problems that we would run into if the power was off, if the water was off, germs, cross-contamination, we talk about food preparation, all those kind of things. And one of the topics that we came up on was what happens in an infection type of contagion environment where you might have the unfortunate situation where people might pass away. And what would you do with that? So as an example, in the magazine, when I wrote the article, it was essentially, we're talking about major disasters, Hurricane Katrina, the 2004 Pacific tsunami. We talked about some of the major earthquakes. So these big events that overwhelm the authorities when it comes to taking care of the population and how to prevent disease, how to control that environment. And what we learned is there's not enough responders to deal with that kind of situation. So civilians were being thrust into the position of dealing with the loss of life. And so that's a very possible, quite possible situation that could happen in a big environment like that, where you might have to take care of that until civilization can get back on its feet again and they can come collect people as they need and get people to their final disposition the proper way. So aside from all the religious aspects, aside from the family wishes and all the things that have to happen in a normal loss of family or somebody, we're going to look at the actual, how do you deal with the remains of someone. I know it's not a very warm topic, but we can still respect as many of the wishes as possible, and we can do a much better job of that if we are prepared. So in the issue this month, I actually created a what I call the Cadaver Management Kit. I know that sounds, it was better than Body Disposal Kit, okay? Let's be real. It is what it is. But we all like kits. We have go bags, we have get home bags, we have all these different bags and kits and fire kits and water kits, stay home kits, bug in kits. Why not go ahead and take care of something that could be a big problem? And this is where the Cadaver Management Kit comes in. All of this stuff was bought locally and sourced either at Walmart or Amazon. It's not expensive. It's actually very easy to put together, and it will help in that time when you're trying to figure out what to do with people. Now, there's a couple of questions that we're going to come up with inside of this, and we want to identify when would we need this. If you've got human remains that are laying around, but if you've got, if you've got human remains that need to be done with the final disposition, you've got to find a way to properly inter those and to prevent the spread of disease and bacteria and all kinds of other sanitation issues. So first and most importantly, don't be afraid of a body. If a body perished from a mechanical or a physical injury and not a contagion injury, it's not going to be infectious. You don't have to run out in 10 minutes and get this in the ground. That's not the case whatsoever. You've got time. Now, the caveat to that is, and I know it's going to get a little bit more grim as we go on here, a body can become unrecognizable for facial recognition in as little as 12 hours in a warm environment. So if you're in the warm period of the year or a very warm or humid climate, you've got 12 to maybe 48 hours, depending on that temperature and humidity, before you can no longer recognize that person. So the very first thing that you've got to do is you've got to document who this person is, what caused them to perish, and you've got to make all these notes. So what is their name? You've got to assign a unique number to that person, and you make these numbers up. So this is all for later identification by the authorities. We can't just start putting people in the ground and saying, well, that's good, and we'll throw a wooden stick cross over it and be done with it. We actually there's a process for this that governments all over the world have put into place. You need to create a unique ID number on a piece of paper. You need to write the name of that person down, the date of birth, the date of death. You need to write a physical description of that person because you won't be able to recognize them going forward for very long. You need to write down what they're wearing. You need to write down if it's not somebody that was related to you. You want to collect all of their personal effects. You want to put those all into a plastic Ziploc type bag. And you want to make a note and take an inventory of all those effects. So you also want to now figure out where you're going to place this person. If you're going to put them in the ground, then you've got to look at the issue, and you'll see that there's a distance from fresh water for how far we should put people, how deep we should put people, how we should mark the grave, and so forth. And you want to take a copy of that paper that you made and keep that. One copy with all the personal effects stays with the body, and that gets buried together in a marked location. The other copy of that will go back, and you'll keep that for records. Should you ever need those in the future, if somebody were to come asking, then you'll be able to provide that. And that's actually pretty important. That's one of the major requirements for all the global governments for disposing and what they call final disposition of human remains. So you're not going to get sick by handling somebody unless they had some sort of contagion. The germs will be gone on a body as it cools. And so, it depends on the temperature of that, but usually after a day or so, 2 days, most of contagious illnesses will be gone because the body will be too cold to support those. Now, the only exception to that, the main exception to that is HIV. HIV can last on human remains for up to 6 days after death. If you know that person had that condition, well, then you're definitely going to have to take care of using more what we call PPE, which is personal protective equipment. So, which we're going to have some of that in here. So, if you run across in your community where there's a lot of human remains about, if there is an endemic disease in that area, then you need to really ramp up your PPE, because then you could have contagious human remains. So we'll dig into that. Let's open this up. We'll talk about it a little bit. This in this kit is just a standard 5-gallon bucket. There's nothing special about the bucket at all. So we've got a typical lid on here. If you want to get fancy, you could put on a spinning gamma type lid. This one just goes hammered on with a rubber mallet and sealed up. There's nothing in here that's going to expire. So everything can stay in here for a very, very long time. As with all of our storage, we want to keep it in a cool, dark, dry place. And that will preserve its lifespan, service life on these things, especially items that might have plastic or rubber on them. So we'll start out with our 5-gallon bucket. First thing I have here on the top is some of the PPE. So what I did is I chose the old high school science class type of goggle for this kit, specifically because it's ventilated and because it fits over eyeglasses. You have your choice of any kind of safety glasses you want, but you want something that's going to give you splash protection, because if you're in a situation where you're dealing with a lot of fluids, things that could be dripping, you don't want to get those in your eyes. You also, with a larger mask like this, will help to prevent you from rubbing your eyes with your hands and your gloves that might be contaminated. And that's key. We got to be careful, and if you'll check out this month's issue on germ warfare, you'll find that we talk about not touching our face. Too often we touch our face, and just me talking about touching your face right now, you're probably feeling like you want to rub your face or scratch your nose. That's just the way that works. So that's why I chose these kind of safety goggles. The second thing I did is I picked up a charcoal of an N95 filter, an odor respirator, not just a dust mask, but an odor respirator. And the reason for the odor respirator is, well, for obvious reasons, as remains start to decompose, they all start to off-gas, and that off-gassing is going to smell pretty bad. This will help with that. It's not a requirement unless you're in an endemic disease area or you're dealing with known contagious remains. But that's why I went with this route here. We'll also have inside of here, we'll find it as we get through, a little bit smaller, there's a little odor clips. Actually, here they are. Odor clips is like a nose plug. I know that's going to be super hard to see, and Nikki's going to zoom in on that later on the table. The nose plug, what it does is it's got a menthol fragrance inside of it, and it goes inside your nostrils like a inside nose clip, and that helps to prevent or restrict that odors coming into your nose. That all goes with part of the morale. So if you're dealing with a lot of remains or you're dealing with something with a lot of odors, those kind of things will take some of the sting away from that. The next thing that I have on here, and these are some Venom Steel heavy-duty breathable coveralls. So you can use Tyvek, you can use the Venom Steel. There's as long as you have a full body set of coveralls. This one's got a hood, so this is pretty nice. This kind of goes full-on Ebola setup. Now here's the thing. If you're not dealing with, like we have an article in this month's issue in Germ Warfare called medical messes and bloodborne pathogens. And if you're not dealing with a lot of fluids, then you don't need all this. This comes in handy when you're dealing with contagion, you're dealing with fluids, splash issues, things like that. That's when this will come in really handy. These are made to be single use. They're heavy duty. This particular one is, it's got 2 separate layers and it's got head to ankle coverage. So that's pretty handy. The next thing in our bucket of doom here we have is sheets. So these sheets actually come from Walmart, and you can get sheets at Walmart on sale for as little, I think I paid about $3 a piece for these at Walmart. And I got white and I got red. Obvious reasons why I got red, but white is your standard that is called for when I say the government put out the guidelines around the world. Just take a regular cotton sheet. The reason that we want to use a cotton sheet is because we can, it's already fitted. Now these are twin size sheets. The twin size sheets are fitted about the right size of a human being. You can lay these flat on the ground, you can place the remains on top, and then you could roll them up burrito style and contain them. So they're easy to use. You don't need the fitted set, you just need the twin size bed sheet. The next thing in here is a piece of rope. So this is just a 50-foot section of a basic poly braid rope. And the reason for the rope is once you get a body into the sheet and start to wrap it up, you're going to use the sections of rope to secure the body and to secure the sheet around the body. Now, the way to do that is to start, you lay the body prone on its back, you take a small section rope, you tie the ankles up, you come around the waist, you put a nice thing in the waist, you're going to keep the arms over the body like this. That keeps them from all moving around and pulling the sheet apart. We don't want that. So we're going to tie it all up, and then you're going to take another section of rope and you're going to put it around the neck area, and that's going to hold all of that body into one nice tight bundle. Now, if that body has fluids and that are going to start coming through the sheet, well, that's when some of this 2 mil plastic drop cloth will come in handy. So this is something I picked up actually at Home Depot. It's just a plastic drop cloth for painting floors. I got the 2 mil because it's thicker than the real flimsy stuff. And what I decided I wanted to do with this is if I lay my sheet out on the ground and I have remains that are very wet or drippy or in pieces, whatever that might be, I can then lay the plastic sheet over the cotton sheet, lay the remains on top of that, and roll it all up into now more of a waterproof bundle, and then go ahead and use my rope and tie it all off. You'll see all this in the issue. Now, the rest of our PPE that we have down here inside the bucket, I've got several pair of these Venom Steel nitrile gloves. These things, they're gray on the inside, they're black on the outside. I don't mind which brand you use, but I will say that this Venom Steel, these things are super strong, and it's a great price for a box of 50 of those. It's not that much at all, and you can use this stuff for all kinds of different things. So what I would say to do is I've got 1 pair, 2 pair, I've got 3 pair of those in here. You can double them up, you can give them to other people that are going to help you with this situation. And then if you get into something a little bit more like an Ebola situation, you can then on top of your nitrile gloves add these what we call long cuff vinyl cleaning gloves. And what we're looking for here is that splash protection. So if you put these long gloves on, that's going to give you a little bit more protection. If you put the long gloves on over the coveralls here, and then you tape off the seams, that will help prevent, you want to put these underneath the sleeves over the glove, tape that off. That'll prevent any rainwater or any fluids from getting down under and inside your glove. So one of the things that you can do as a family, something that you can practice on that's actually very important, is learning how to put on and off gloves. I think what we'll do is we'll do a separate video on that later on. It'll be a really short video, so that'll be something interesting to learn. So I've got 2 pair of these the long cuff gloves. I've also got these handy red bags. Everybody has seen this logo, and you've probably seen these bags at your doctor's office or at the hospital. And all this is a trash bag with the biohazard symbol on there, and that's for medical waste. So they also make great Halloween decorating for the front porch. And I've seen other people talk about using this kind of thing and filling it up full of towels and stuff and leaving it on the porch to deter people from coming in after a really bad SHTF situation. Somebody might look at that on the porch and say, I'm not going in that house. So it might give you a little bit of deterrence. But this can be used to wrap up all of this contaminated PPE either later on, and then you can know that when you go to dispose of it, it needs to be definitely taken care of so you're not spreading any bacteria. Alongside my kit here, I also have something called a quick litter. Now a quick litter, this is actually recommended as a one-time use. This is a litter, just like it sounds, where you would lay it on the ground, you would put somebody on it, and you could carry them off and put them where you want them. You can get them back to your infirmary. You can use this to, as you start to move your human remains to wherever you need to get them. It's got handles all around. It's nice and strong. This is very inexpensive. This litter costs about $16, and it's a full-size commercial grade litter. Good stuff. Maybe we'll do a video later on and put somebody on there. Last but not least in my bucket, we have something that's actually called a post-mortem bag. So if you saw recently, Chris and John did a video on a body bag. This is also a body bag. This one's a little bit more of a kit than the one that they demonstrated. This one's actually a heavy vinyl, and it comes with items inside all ready to go. So inside the kit, we have notes on here that say blood body fluid precautions. You can put this on the tags that come with it and on the outside of the bag, so that anybody that gets anywhere near it knows that there's a blood issue inside. And these are your toe tags. Now you'll notice that there's several of them here, and the reason for that is one stays with the remains like we talked about. One goes back to the record keeping, and then another one can go to record keeping somewhere else, or you can keep it secure in another location and start collecting these. Hopefully you don't get too many need for these. But that's nice to have in the kit. You also get the personal effects bags that come inside the kit. We get some binding here. So this is just some little cordage that you'll use inside the kit if you need to kind of keep the remains together. We have some cloths in here, and we have, and these are all actually the straps that go around the outside of the bag. We have inside of here, we have more tags, and then we have some of these, absorbent cloths inside of here. Those will go inside the bag, and that would catch any fluids. Again, I know that this is a very morbid topic, but it is what it is. Now, this particular bag is really nice. It's got heavy-duty zippers all around the perimeter of it. It's a little bit different than the one that Chris demonstrated the other day, but you'll see how big this thing is. So you can put all kinds of things inside of here. Now, let's talk a little bit about, do I need the sheets if I have the bag? Do I need the bag if I have the sheets? There's only one time you should really be using, well, there's two times I can think of off the top of my head that I should be using a body bag. The problem with using a bag, it's kind of the same thing as if you put, let's say that you were out hunting and you shot some game. If you put the game inside of a bag, it's not going to cool down fast enough, and that heat is going to allow bacteria to multiply. The goal of anything that's perished is to get it to room temperature as soon as possible. The sooner the body gets to room temperature, the less contagion, less pathogens that we're going to have that are going to spread to us. So if I put a body inside of a vinyl or canvas type of body bag that doesn't breathe, it's going to create a lot of heat, and it's going to steam up inside there, and it's going to speed up the decomp process. We don't want that. We don't want to use that bag unless we have to. So if you have a lot of fluids, if you have multiple pieces that you need to keep together, or you have a contagion, then it goes in the bag, and that just seals it all up, and then you can mark it and say, okay, we're not opening that. With that being said, if none of that is the case, go with the sheet. The reason for using the sheet is because it allows the body to cool as quickly as possible while giving it the dignity and privacy it needs inside the sheet. Tie it up, get it all squared away, and then you can go put that where it needs to be. You have time. If it's not 100 degrees out and rainy, you've got time. You don't have to do it in the first 10 minutes. You could probably get by in a day or two. Again, if it's really cold, you got a lot longer than that. If it's really hot, not so much time. But I would say go with the sheet. So with that, that's about all I have on my Cadaver Management Kit. Please check out the Germ Warfare issue of Survival Dispatch Insider, which just came out this December, just a couple days ago. And there's a call to action in there, so you'll have some things to practice as a family or to enhance your skills. So again, I'm Charlie here with Survival Dispatch Insider. We'll see you again soon.